I'm going to have a very brief overview of aortic stenosis. I'll talk about auscultation in aortic stenosis, show you some Doppler data of a study that we did, and then talk about some implications for future research with respect to auscultation and electronic stethoscope. So here are some echo images of the aortic valve. This is a normal tri-leaflet aortic valve. You can see the leaflets are thin and mobile and opens widely. Here's a tri-leaflet aortic stenosis. There's calcification, sclerosis, thickening, and decreased excursion of the valves. This is a bicuspid aortic valve. You could barely see there are two leaflets here. And this is an example of a bicuspid aortic stenosis where you can see, again, calcification and restricted leaflet motion. So this is the disease process that we're dealing with in cardiology. And on pathology, this is an example of a normal tri-leaflet aortic valve. This is aortic stenosis. You can see calcium nodules on the valve leaflets that restrict leaflet motion. I think everybody knows this slide showing that once there's symptom onset, there's decreased survival and morbidity associated with aortic stenosis. So actually, I think this is very interesting. So this is the current US population, about 42 million. Over 65, age over 65, 42 million. The prevalence of AS is about 4%. So that brings us down to about 1.7 million people. Operable AS is about 20%. So there are about 330,000 patients with operable severe aortic stenosis. And the annual AVR patients number is only 67,000. So the majority of patients are not operated on. Okay? And there may be many reasons for this, but this is an area where I think there's some implications. So there are reasons for not operating. There's perceived high risk by the primary care physician, cardiologist, the surgeon. There are comorbidities preventing surgery. There's patient refusal. And then I think there's a chunk of patients out there that are underdiagnosed, either not diagnosed with severe AS or loss of follow-up. But with more treatment options, I think these patients that are not operated, we should focus on them, and if they should be operated, we should offer the operation. So with transcatheter valve replacement, I think some of these patients that may not be operated on traditionally may derive benefit from an operation. So here is just some examples of both under fluoro as well as echo of a transcatheter valve replacement using a balloon catheter valve that's inflated in the native aortic valve position. On exam, AS is classically coined by three features. There's a systolic ejection murmur, the diminished or absent of the A2 component, and a delayed and diminished carotid upstroke. Here's a study of an electronic stethoscope. They used a different stethoscope in this case, published in 2005. And they looked at 7 areas of auscultation. And what they found was that area 2, the right upper sternal border, was actually the best area, not surprising. And this is one example of a normal patient on the right and a severe aortic stenosis patient on the left. You can see the normal patient has a strong S1, S2, in this case, A1, A2 component. And in the AS patient, there's a lot of murmur here, AS murmur. And this panel here, panel B, is with this filtering software. And you can see that the murmur persists. And then in the normal patient, again, there's no murmur here. You have an A1, A2. And then with this software filtering, you actually lose the S1, S2 component. But the main feature is the murmur. What they found in this study is they used patients with moderate to severe AS, both moderate group and severe group, with concomitant valve disease. What they found was that these are just two databases, 1 and 2. But let's focus on database 1 as an example. If you have moderate to severe AS, comparing within those patients, as opposed to moderate to severe AS with other valve disease, such as mitral regurg, that also gives you the systolic murmur, there's a big difference. And if you compare the moderate severe AS within patients within that group, as opposed to moderate severe AS with healthy controls, again, big difference. Another way to look at it is this. If you look at correlation coefficients. So within the moderate severe AS group, it correlates very well. Whereas if you compare moderate severe AS with other valve disease or healthy controls, there's minimal correlation. This is just another study showing similar results. So what we did in our study was we thought that because on Doppler echo we can see distinct valve opening and closure signals or transients in AS, that the lack of these A1 or A2 signals represents a more severe form of AS. So this is what we see in daily practice. Here's a normal patient, and actually this is a patient with significant AS. You can see here that the peak velocity reaches 4 meters per second. So this is significant AS. But you can see clear Doppler signals of the A1 and A2 component, signifying valve opening and valve closure. Here's a patient with similar velocity, 4 meters per second, severe AS, but it lacks the A1 and A2 component, valve opening and closure. So we think that these patients do worse than these patients. And this study was presented in 2011 at ACC, and the manuscript is under review. And Dr. Schiller and Shaw helped with this study significantly. So our hypothesis was that the absence of the A1 and the A2 component correlate with more severe AS, and that in patients with severe AS, the absence of these signals predict poor prognosis. So we took about 108 patients total from a single center. We excluded patients with prosthetic valves and those with significant aortic regurg. And we did a comprehensive echo on all patients. And these signals, the presence or absence of these signals, were reviewed in a blinded fashion. And a primary endpoint was aortic valve replacement, and secondary endpoints were mortality and hospitalizations. Again, we have 108 patients total. 55 had severe aortic stenosis, and 63 had moderate AS. And what we found was that about 15% of patients had both. These are all, so of the patients who had severe AS, 15% of patients had A1 and A2 present in this cohort, even if they had severe AS. Whereas if they had severe AS, 100% of patients had A1 absent, and the majority had A2 absent. And if you had A1 and A2 both absent, all of them had severe AS. So if you look at the baseline characteristics, this is your, I think, typical aortic stenosis population. Older patients, lots of comorbidities, again, atrial fibrillation, heart failure. And if you look at AS severity, not surprisingly, if you had either A1 or A2 absent, the majority had severe AS, 91%. Whereas if both are present, the majority, only a minority has severe AS. And that's not surprising. And if you look at the echo parameters, also not surprising. The patients with absence of either A1 or A2 component had more severe forms of AS. Not surprising. But if you look at this, if you look at patients with A1 or A2 absent, any absence of aortic valve closure or opening predicted aortic valve replacement subsequently. Now if you look at patients with severe aortic stenosis, so these are all patients with severe AS, the absence of aortic valve closure or opening still predicted subsequent AVR, okay, even within patients with severe AS. So we think this absence of this signal may become an important echo parameter to predicting future events. And this is just the Kaplan-Meier survival curve showing that if you have an absence of A1 and A2, it predicts worse outcome, survival free of hospitalization or AVR. So we concluded that the absence of either valve opening or closure signal by Doppler was predictive of severe AS, and that it predicted outcome. So implication for future research. Well, we know that echo is the gold standard for evaluating aortic stenosis. We also know that ACC, AHA, and ASE recommend a transthoracic echo every 2 to 3 years in patients with mild to moderate AS for follow-up, assuming there's no change in clinical status. So potentially, electronic stethoscope may improve the diagnosis of aortic stenosis and the progression of it, and decrease healthcare costs, especially in patients with mild to moderate AS, where you recommend routine follow-ups in patients with non-significant disease. Now, I work at Kaiser Redwood City, and we get these emails once every quarter on the physicians and the ordering of echo tests per 1,000 patients. And there's no financial tie-ins with this, but I think the future of cardiology with healthcare reform is that there's going to be more and more restrictions on test ordering. So the proposal is as follows. So using electronic stethoscope and TTE as a gold standard, we can try to determine the auscultation characteristics that correlate well with AS severity and progression. And I think we can use the loudness of murmur, perhaps, a characteristic murmur, and the presence and absence of A1 and A2. And I think Samir alluded to, you can differentiate P1 and P2 from A1 and A2. So we could use some of these characteristics, and it would be a prospective study. It would be applicable to patients presenting to the echo lab for aortic stenosis follow-up. And you will have an auscultation with this electronic stethoscope and echo, and the data will be analyzed in a blinded fashion. And if we can find characteristics of the electronic stethoscope that correlate well with AS severity and can predict AS progression, we can look at clinical characteristics as well as cost-effective characteristics to see if there's an advantage of the electronic stethoscope versus follow-up echoes in these mild to moderate patients. Thank you for your attention.